Hallo, ik ben Christian Stellheid en ik neem jullie mee op een verkenningstocht doorheen de Spaanse migratie in Brussel.
The links between Brussels and Spain go back several centuries. Throughout history, there have been intense political, cultural and commercial relations between the two regions. The Brussels urban landscape reflects this rich common past. In the full 20th century, a political drama is taking place in Europe, the Second World War, preceded by the Spanish Civil War. During and after the Civil War, a stream of refugees is arriving in European countries. Belgian families take in Spanish children, known as Los Niños de la Guerra, and political opponents of the Franco regime also find shelter in Belgium. They continue their political and trade union activities from their exile. This political commitment would play an important role in the later integration of Spanish migrant workers in our country. When we talk about Spanish migration in Brussels, we are thinking in particular of the labor migration that has been taking place since the 1950s. Belgium concluded a migration agreement with Spain in 1956 after Italy terminated the agreement with Belgium following the Marcinelle mining disaster, which claimed the lives of many Italian migrants. At that time, Spain itself was faced with high unemployment. For the Franco regime, sending labor migrants to Northern Europe was a solution for the internal labor market and a source of foreign currency. This is also the period in which mass tourism is taking off. While Belgium receives Spanish migrant workers, Belgians go to the Spanish costas for the first time, in search of sun and sea for the annual family holiday. 5. Around the 1970s, the number of Spaniards in Belgium was more than 67,000. Most of them came from Galicia, Asturias, and Andalusia. They first moved to the mining basins in Wallonia and Limburg, and only later to Brussels, which then became a major center of attraction. Many Spanish migrants were scarcely educated on arrival. They were brought up in the strict Catholic principles and political repression of the Franco regime. When they arrive in Belgium, they will connect with Belgian society and culture, as well as with the political, syndical network that had previously been developed in Belgium by Spanish political exiles. This dynamic is leading to the development of a flourishing club life, the traces of which can be found in Brussels. The pillars of this club life are 1. Political parties and syndicates, left wing, PSOE, PCE, UGT, CCOO. 2. Religious festivals and brotherhoods. 3. Regional associations, clubs, shops and cafes. This intense associative life and internal organization of the Spanish community in Brussels and Belgium had a positive influence on emancipation and integration. Attention was paid to young people's studies through associations, with the creation of homework classes, parents' associations of Spanish parents, but also through the literacy and school development of the parents themselves, through the Spanish Workers' University, which made the community self-confident and empowered. In this way, a successful generation of Spanish Belgians came into being, who made a significant contribution to cultural life in Brussels from their migratory background. The Galician community is a good example of this. From the traditional Centro Gallego, originally aimed at passing on and preserving Galician traditions, a younger generation of Galicians from Brussels opted for fusion and renewal, for participation in the very diverse cultural scene of our capital. These developments are closely linked to the changes in Spain itself and to Spain's amended statute within Europe. The Franco regime came to an end in 1975 and Spain joined the European Union in 1986. Spain itself was transformed into autonomous communities. This had consequences for the Spanish presence in Brussels. They were no longer migrants, but fully fledged European citizens. Spanish European civil servants, business leaders, lobbyists settled in Brussels, giving the Spanish community a wider social palette. The Spanish migrant centers in Brussels were renamed cultural centers for the promotion of regional art and culture. A good example of this is the Andalusian Feria, which over the years has become a reference point of the Brussels cultural agenda and has acquired a European profile. The Spanish economy flourished from the 1990s onwards. Spanish migrants, but also young people born and raised in Belgium, returned to their homeland to enjoy a pension or looking for a job. The Spanish migrant community in Brussels grew ever smaller. Cafes, shops, and clubhouses disappeared or started to focus on a different audience. At that time, Spain itself changed from being an emigration country to an immigration country. North African, Latin American, or Eastern Europe At that time, Spain itself changed from being an emigration country to an immigration country. North African, Latin American, or Eastern European migrants were arriving, particularly in the agricultural and construction sectors. And then, suddenly, the crisis struck in 2008. Spain was hit very hard. The economic crisis hit many young people in Spain. No job, no money to pay for studies, no future prospects. Spain became an emigration country once again. Belgian population statistics clearly show this evolution. From 2009 onwards, the number of Spaniards in Belgium is increasing year after year. About half of them are based in Brussels. Here you see the evolution curve of Spanish people from 2008 to 2020. In blue, Belgium, in orange, Brussels. In the streets of Brussels, the Spanish language is part of the sound of the city. Spanish youth on the Brussels labor market, Spanish tourists on a city trip, but also Latin Americans who have lost their jobs due to the crisis in Spain and are starting a new life in Brussels, as well as Moroccan migrants with Spanish nationality, for whom Spanish has become a second language. The Spanish presence in Brussels today is as diverse as the city itself. And Manneken Pis, who adapts. The whole palette of Spanish Brussels has now been given a place in his wardrobe. St. Nicholas' suit isn't missing either, because did that holy man not come from Spain as well?